точно. Одна, все, супер, я зрозуміла. Ага, да. Все, Машевець випав, точно. Угу, окей. От шкода, що Машевець випав. Дуже шкода. У мене до нього є багато запитань. Так, а де ми транслюємось, на якому ресурсі? На сторінці в Фейсбуці Держспецзв'язку, на Мінцифри? Ну там, напевно, 3 копійки, да, підписників. Краще на... Краще на... Ага, зараз.
Ще секундочку, перевірка. Чутно мене?
Угу. Чутно, чутно, я вас гарно чую.
Це на випадок, якщо у нас Стефанишина буде запізнюватись, треба буде...
Привіт. Окей, якщо буде запізнюватись, добре. Як справа?
Ні, спасибо, ні.
Сьогодні зробили такий прилавок, що просто...
Ладно, скажите там.
А по камерах давайте обсудимо. Крупний план, де? Ось тут виведіть мене зараз, я швидко... Чи немає вже можливості? Немає. А на вашій камері що? Супер, все. Дякую. Ви починаєте з... Ви будете орієнтуватися по мені, чи самі будете? Хорошо, добре. Я тоді на неї почну, добре? Бо загальний, ви ж не хочете палити Юру поки що, так? Да? Окей, добре. Так, телефони вимикаємо, офлайн. Всім доброго дня. Мене звати Ніна Соколова. Сподіваюсь, ви здорові, живі і впевнені в тому, що в країні все буде в порядку в напрямку цифровізації. Сьогодні я перебуваю тут в будівлі Держспецзв'язку, фактично там в центрі Києва. І ми сьогодні зібралися, аби великою командою, власне, з 15 по 19 листопада відзначити, провести національний хакатон із кіберзахисту. В заході беруть участь, одразу скажу, 15 команд. Нагадаю, сектор безпеки, оборони, освітніх і наукових закладів України.
From educational and R&D institutes, and we'll have the leading national and international experts. And let me add that in modern world, as you have probably noticed with Facebook, Twitter and YouTube there that the information war is going on, not just with conventional weapons and the military aggression from the Russian side in the east of Ukraine, but also in the cyberspace. Let me add that the state continuously, perhaps you do not know, that have a comprehensive fight against such attacks. One of the areas of cybersecurity is the training program. It's most effective when we have the competitive events like hackathons. What is this notion, you would ask me? Janina, I would answer you that it's hacker plus marathon. This is looking for solutions to overcome cyber challenges, and this is a unique event. The 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, and 19th of November. The first national hackathon in cybersecurity under the full auspices of NATO, and the state Service for Special Communications and StratCom Ukraine are the co-founders. This is supported this year, and we are very grateful for the support. NATO, US Embassy in Ukraine, Governmental Office on European Euro-Atlantic Integration, Office of Vice Prime Minister on the European Euro-Atlantic Integration RASM, Exchange Ukraine NATO Project, Protection of Critical Infrastructure of Ukraine. This is USAID Project Cybersecurity, and the ambassador of this project I am. And if you ask me what I'm doing here, I am the ambassador, and we are glad to cooperate with the Ministry of Digital Transformation. And I said this is a very important project concerning the war in the East, but it is not just conventional, it's also in the network on the web. And if we ask each other what we do with that, regular Ukraine, how can one learn about the government's efforts to protect cyber infrastructure? That's why we are here to draw some plans and to try to understand why this hackathon. And we are in the cyber center of UA30. This is the cyber center at the Special Communications Service and Information Protection. The governmental agency. Let us meet chair of this service, Yuri Shihot. Right to my right, I'm happy to see you, Yanina. For those who do not know Yuri, perhaps you see him for the first time. He's doing a lot for cyber protection, and if we talk about modern challenges, I would first of all ask you, how can the government in a comprehensive way arrange this work for protection of cybersecurity at critical infrastructure? If you watch us on Facebook and YouTube, you can use your pointing finger and expand the circle, sharing the link on your page, the streaming link. Now, what's the formula? Is there a formula for protection and for protect Ukraine? Not to create the media wave, we can have this feedback. We are sitting in this studio. This is the real war, crossing the borders, but there's the cyber space without any boundaries. So we're in favor of setting the energy sphere, the transportation sphere requirements for us to be able to protect them. The only formula to make everything good, there is no silver bullet, but we have to do everything we can for the state to be protected. So more specifically, many viewers can hear and think, okay, we are doing something, but what exactly? Hackathon, as far as I understand, is one of the ways, in addition to learning, we can understand and form the strategy in general. So why this your service exactly? Why did you initiate that? For what purpose? Our service is responsible for cyber protection on the part of the government, protection of the registered state information resources. All the agencies are responsible for digital transformation. This is the area of our responsibility. In addition to that, our teams, our military institute, the R&D Institute last year participated in NATO Hackathon and won them. And we have the honorable right to hold this hackathon in Ukraine on behalf of the Committee, also for Euro-Atlantic integration. That's why we're having this event on our premises. Now about national defense hackathons. What is this? What this is and how they are organized in Ukraine, why we have them as national hackathons. And very briefly about defense hackathons. Hackathon as a notion is to improve skills and knowledge through learning. The real-life scenarios are taken from life, as we can suppose, for protection of the state and national security in Ukraine. That's why we're having it here, and through learning we can improve the first responders' performance, 15 teams of them, to be ready to protect our country. When Ukrainians hear Ukraine NATO as a compound, they immediately cheer up, because this is our opportunity to become stronger together. What's the specific feature of such hackathons and the US specific NATO? Why NATO would increase the efficiency? Any organization needs strong partners. Through learning we can increase our capabilities and our capacity in cyber protection to protect cyberspace, and that's the principal requirement. And the specific feature of NATO Hackathon is about all those missions and problems in the sphere of security and defense. This is the shortest way, the shortcut to solving our problems in cybersecurity. Real part of our viewership are aware of such initiatives. What are the biggest problems that we have there? The level of protection for critical infrastructure, and this is energy, transport, and all the areas providing for our livelihoods. And that is a changing approach to the science, skills, and knowledge, open source analysis for the purposes of security. Are we ready for that? We are getting ready for that. And why NATO? Because we are a partner nation. According to the accession program, annual program, and through learning and support we are gaining the brownie points. Thank you very much. Have touched upon a very important topic: save Ukraine, secure Ukraine, and our subsequent guests will discuss that in more detail. I'm sure in a couple of seconds I will greet in the studio Olga Stefanishyna, Vice Prime Minister for European and Euro-Atlantic integration of Ukraine, and she'll be joined by Mikhailo Fedorov, Vice Prime Minister, Minister of Digital Transformation of Ukraine. While we can see them on camera, they can enter the studio. We'll make a short break for the magic and digitalization. Magic of digital. Hello? Live, you are live. You are so slim. You look slim, in an excellent shape. I can hear that. So this is live, and we are smiling because this is the greatest mood we can be in. Our Facebook and YouTube viewership, you can see me sitting at this stand. That's like a bartender. Well, I think that's the best arrangement for cyber protection of critical important infrastructure. We are going to discuss with Mikhailo and Olga our principal topic today. We're talking about hackathons, about NATO, and our program, our opportunity to learn. We have 15 teams here and 5 days for this cool entertainment. If you watch us on Facebook and YouTube, you can pick up the link and share. Olga, here's my question to you. can you explain how, in plain Ukrainian, how cybersecurity is related to our integration to NATO? Yuri tried to explain that, but what important role can be played by this hackathon that is now beginning? How can we approach the NATO standards by this avenue of approach? In the NATO system presently, the military, non-military security challenges are equal. There's Deputy Secretary General new security challenges, cybersecurity, energy security. And because this is the new policy, the new reality, this is fighting proxy threats, hybrid threats. This is reflected on our mode of cooperation with NATO, training critical infrastructure, fighting hybrid threats, cyber threats. This is a full swing exercise. So having this exercise in Ukraine, we promote our interoperability according to the NATO standards. There are scores of them in cybersecurity already, and I would like to draw attention to some background history. A couple of years ago, for the first time, a team of Ukrainian governmental agency participated in NATO tabletop game and won, to everybody's surprise. So we're having our own exercise now based on NATO standards. In a couple of months in Ukraine, in the winning country, we'll have the full swing NATO exercise on cybersecurity, where we will employ all the scenarios, starting with interference with the elections. In another state, you're either hacked or you don't know that you have been. So, protection of critical energy or digital infrastructure, right supreme. There's a direct connection. This is also interoperability in terms of technologies, techniques of fighting, detecting problems like in the military sphere. Mikhailo, you are the wizard of digitalization, and some vaccinators, of course, tried to oppose you, but last weekend everywhere, whenever we would go, I had no COVID passport on paper. I was just carrying my smartphone. There are many other options, not just the COVID passport, so-called COVID certificate. Now we are digitalized, and what is the problem that you would like to present to our audience? And how can you introduce a more effective way of digital transformation for the country? Thank you for using DIA platform. Thanks to you, every day millions of Ukrainians use this app very actively, and this is also related to the COVID certificates, so-called. And new services. So we have 90% of readiness of the services and subsidies, allowances, pensions, pension ID. This will be launched at the end of next year, the beginning, at the end of this month, next month, the latest, the beginning, and we will be transformed into a digital state with all online services and simplified offline services at that. Cybersecurity is the most important challenge in its own right that we have presently, and we're working with it, and that's why we are all here today. That is to say that we pay great attention to cybersecurity, protection of basic registers with all the personal data stored, because DIA does not do that, so it reflects the registers. The COVID certificate, for example, is a reflection of the data in use of some register. This is the register under the administration of the National Health Service. And there are certain rules regulate the operations of the registers and protection of the data in those registers. And this is the challenge that's so right today, and we have in real time to understand security status, to introduce new standards, form the policy in such a way that we can respond to the challenges that we have every day, the new ones, and be there very agile and progressive, launching new services. And we are very much concerned with the security. We have the bug bounty. This is the competition when ethical hackers from all the world can participate in attacks, test attacks, of course, aimed at apps, portals to find the vulnerable spots and get the money for that. We used to do that in a less organized fashion. Now it's all regular, it's all routine. We want to keep it that way. If you do not know what bug bounty is, we discussed it in our previous broadcasts as an USAID ambassador. I would like to refer you to the page of security, the bug bounty, and with Mikhailo we discussed that earlier. You said, Mr. Fedorov, the DIA platform, remember we were in correspondence in WhatsApp on the hacking and phishing of DIA, and that was done on our fellow countrymen from Zaporizhia country, but it's not just to be on the internet for the moment of glory. This is to make some money. Ukrainians are growing in number, the ones that use DIA. I can see that around me, and not just in my generation, but older people. There's more trust now. The biggest problem that we have now in terms of protection against the Minister of Information Policy. What from you,
Yes, I'm the Minister of Digital Transformation. I think that most of the journalist community will not be against you being the minister. Well, along with the cybersecurity and development of IT infrastructure, there are certain basic digital skills of Ukrainians, because a lot of problems can be avoided if you follow really simple rules that very often help to use the services that you use all the time, like messages. Or any bank recommends some steps need to be taken to protect your data, like registration of your SIM card, so that perpetrators could not duplicate your card. So that there are certain rules to follow to protect information about yourself in public or private registers or databases. And this is a separate goal that we are trying to achieve. In our KPI, one of our KPIs is to teach basic digital literacy to 6 million Ukrainians. And when we started to establish our ministry, we conducted a survey, and we saw that certain number of people are outside the don't have the basic digital literacy skills, and we raised by 7% those skills of those people through the online education, like hubs of digital education, where you can get free of charge knowledge how to pay for your utility services, or what is AI, for example. Celebrities take part in those online education courses, like mini shows, and that helps us make them attractive for young audience. And I think it would be good if we could show that on TV for people to see and to learn how to protect information about themselves. That will make life easier for the SSAP and public authorities, and will help to ensure the defense for everyone. The DIA application is secure, one of the most secure services of public authorities in Ukraine. European Commission conducted a number of technical and legal audits, and they recognized the application as the one that complies with the technical security, personal data protection standards. At the conference of Glasgow, I also used the application, although it is not recognized in the UK, but no one doubted that this is something that can be trusted. This is cool. This is very cool. Let's talk about young people, shall we? since we've been discussing the numbers of people who already feel that they are members of digital country too, the citizens of that country. Can we attract, involve youth to those challenges of cybersecurity? Yesterday we established a very big group, UATube, in one of the messages. So we created this group where there are 6 really top bloggers that were attacked by bots. I don't know whether you know about that or not, because this was a problem. And 2 years ago, our channel with 300,000 followers was almost liquidated if it hadn't been for the support of one of the companies. So the attacks are there from Russians and inside Ukraine too. So how can we protect Ukrainian YouTube, Ukrainian Facebook? Let's speak it out loud. Let's say really openly where can we have some protection, and not somewhere but here or close, like in Poland. We talked about NATO summit back in June, and that was one of the areas, one of the directions for planning of NATO for the next 10 years, and we share the plans with them. Recently, the President signed the decision of NSDC on the introduction of the National Resilience System, which suggests certain methodologies and responses of the state in different situations, like starting from the migration crisis that we see at the borderline of Poland, straight to the cyber rights of every citizen. Today, we are still far away from going along with European Union, because they have introduced really tough rules that do not let us even create a market. You talk about the certain freedoms, e-bloggers, and so far we cannot match that with those tough regulations that they have in the EU. But along with the activities of the Ministry for Digital Transformation, this establishment of the National Resilience System will help us to respond to those challenges. Yeah, over the past 3 years, everyone working with YouTube is concerned about the issue. When are we going to have a representative of YouTube here in Ukraine? Yes, when we went to US and we talked to Google and we talked about that, we then met representatives of the Google in YouTube here in Ukraine. And now, when this happened, what you referred to, we have already contact of the Vice President of Google, whom we can talk to. We can discuss with him this problem that emerged. I think he will respond. Like we had a problem with the application in Google Play, and they gave us a specialist who is helping us with this problem, because of COVID we need to update our application very fast. So now we managed to address the issue that we had very quickly. Now we are going to talk about the representation office of YouTube. They are a very big corporation, but they have individual companies that are developing in their own way. So some time is needed for that, but we have at least the contact established. And this is actually the question related to the brand of our country. In some countries, those offices are opened quickly. In others, it takes some time. At the end of November, we'll have a meeting of Ukrainian representatives with them here in Ukraine. So when we talk about the development of business of such huge corporations, we need to talk also about the trust, about their reputation. And I hope we will have a full-fledged office very soon, and the content will not be moderated from St. Petersburg. And when you install YouTube on your new phone, you won't see the songs of Russian singers coming up on your screen first. So we'll see how the situation will be addressed with those bots. But the result will be more indicative than thousands of words. Yeah, that's an interesting case, because they're attacking not only on YouTube, they're attacking on Telegram, on emails. They send fake messages, you open messages, and by doing so you give access to your messengers and to your email. So please be careful, please be cautious. I ask you about youth. We know that Ukraine is an IT country, the country for young talents in IT, and you are a striking example of this sector, a person who was born in Zaporizhia, so not a really hotspot of IT culture, but still you as a role model, you kind of very good example for the young people to develop in this area. What can you advise, you as public officials on very high level, what can you offer young people to uncover their potential? Well, Mikhailo talked about the training. I think that we can create a trend if we talk about geo-strategy and geo-policies. When a trend, when being in IT especially, is very cool, something of prestige. I'm talking today with NATO a lot, and we want Ukraine to be the country to go to if there are certain IT challenges or cyber security challenges, and that's the step that Ukraine is already taking to be that kind of country. Certainly we need the recognition of the country, of our potential. We need demand for this job, and we are trying to ensure that by training, by working with young experts. Today young experts can take part in different programs, training programs, because Ukraine and Ukrainian youth have already access to certain NATO programs. You can learn about them on the website, in particular governmental sites. So we need to create the brand, we need to create the demand, and we need to create the reputation. If a certain industry develops, actually the rule number one is not to stand on its way. And it's important not to regulate too much the development of an industry. We have very powerful maths training for the kids in school. There is certain trust to our specialists, and very important thing here is the taxation system, because the private entrepreneurship is being developed hugely, and the taxation system is needed to encourage this development. Now we are at the end of the project of the city, when we take the taxation system that is used by private entrepreneurs, and now we apply that on tech companies. So we are creating one of the best taxation systems for tech companies, where you don't need to hide your specialists, your experts. You don't need to hide your doors. You don't need to really do the really fast cleanup and avoid audits. You can work officially, and we are 95% done. I think starting from the next year we can launch this project, and any company will be able to take advantage of this new taxation system, invest more in development, in recruitment of new personnel. And I think that will help us to attract a lot of companies from different countries of the world, because this is going to be the best taxation system in the world, one of the best. We are also launching a project to encourage e-tech training for startups. I really believe in this project. We see how fast the share of e-tech is growing in the world. There are billions, multi-billion industry, and that influences, or is that's going to influence the development of Ukrainians. The more training, online training companies. We have the strongest competition, the less expensive is training, and the more specialists will have in IT. We don't. We lack about 50,000 specialists in Ukraine to meet the demand of those companies, and I think this project will help us to find these people, to recruit them, to train them, and that will give us a sufficient number of specialists, and we will have one of the best taxation systems, which will help us to develop real fast. So now we understand why you have this bug bounty thing. It's like a heaven for everyone. Thank you for joining us, Ms. Org, the Commissioner, and we'll be back in a couple of seconds. Friends, good afternoon again. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for sharing our broadcast online. Please do that. Please share our event. And we have the representative of the Kyiv Polytechnic University, Mr. Zkorovsky Jura, representing the SSSCIP. So, Victor, the first question is for you. We talked about cybersecurity challenges, plans, but if we talk about the actual resources that are available and the people that are available, so tell us, what is the priority? Without any fancy words about plans for the future, what is the focus for today? What is the priority? Well, we focus on training the personnel, the human resources, because this issue is quite important in the whole world in terms of quantity and in terms of quality. The perpetrators, cyber criminals, they normally have the best skills of offensive skills. They have the best cyber weapons. So the person who must counter them, he or she must also have the best skills to be effective in responding to those attacks. We also understand that the best employees are with the private sector now, and our objective of our service is to attract them to the public service so that they could protect the public networks, and we have presented this initiative as part of the reform UA30, and this hackathon is a part of this initiative. So we are taking advantage of the best international experience thanks to NATO and the US Embassy and the global software producers, developers. So that's very much important for us in terms of international experience and cooperation with the international community. As the president of Kyiv Polytechnic Institute, what are the challenges and tasks if we talk about the educational area? Challenges in terms of training of quality HR for the public, because this is quite a new area and the time flies, the technologies change very fast, so we need to have someone to share those knowledge with the youth. Yes, protection of the country in the cyber area depends on the quality of people who work in this sector, and this is quite a comprehensive system of training, because it starts with school level training in maths or physics, and then it goes to strong university schools, and physics and others. So this is about the cooperation that we need to have with the enterprises, with industry, and with the public administration. So this system is being developed real fast and comprehensively. I think that Ukraine has quite a good level of training of human resources, because we are one of few countries who has an encryption school founded by Mr. Kovalenko. So his students continue training experts in this area. So how to transfer information and data in a secure way, or how to look at data and find certain sensors there. So this is about cryptography, and our cryptographic school was one of the best in the world. So those schools that we have at universities are very good. So they provide very good, strong knowledge on mathematics and physics. And we have these schools on cyber defense and cyber security. They're being established very fast, and in particular in our institute, they have been established in cooperation with SSCIP. We have an institute on protection of information, we have a department for physics and technology, and those two institutions are very strong, comparatively strong, not only on the Ukrainian level, but on a bigger scale. In particular, there was global competition, grab the flag, where top teams from top universities are involved. We are in top 10, and in 2016 we were number 1, and these were our students that we trained with help of the SSCIP. We also take high positions on NATO hackathons. We were number 1, and this year our graduates were the first, and I can give you more examples of that kind. So in terms of positive news, we have something to share and to be proud of. This sphere is changing very rapidly, and a lot is still to be done. Let's use a couple of seconds to communicate with NATO representatives. I'm sure that that will be an interest for our audience. We will continue in a couple of seconds.
Всім доброго дня ще раз.
Good afternoon, dear friends. We are talking here about hackathon at the conference, the big opportunity to have a practical process arranged and better skills, improved skills in cyber protection, and under the auspice of cyber protection program we have that here in Kyiv. We were talking about our opportunity to talk to NATO representatives, if we promise we deliver, and head of the cyber infrastructure, C3 from NATO headquarters, Line, and Netta Klein, director of the documentation Information Center of NATO. Can you tell us about the arrangements of NATO to support Ukraine, and if we listen to Ukrainians, it's NATO express a lot of interest in our developments, in our expansion, not just physical security, but also information security. What's the image of Ukraine with NATO, and what can we receive and give in a response?
More frequent, they are coercive, and they are complex and destructive. And that's why in July 2016, NATO allies reaffirmed the defensive mandate of the alliance and also recognized cyberspace as a domain of operations. And the main focus of NATO's functions when it comes to cybersecurity is to protect its own networks, including operations and missions, and also to enhance resilience across the alliance. Same time, NATO helps and supports Ukraine when it comes to hybrid threats, including cyber attacks. And for example, as an example, I can give recently held tabletop exercise this September, Coherent Resilience, which was held in October. In September, when 150 representatives of Ukraine's state bodies and experts from abroad and observers from NATO and partner countries, they took part in this tabletop exercise to discuss cyber security related issues, to discuss possible attacks on critical infrastructure, as well as possible propaganda also attacks and disinformation campaigns. And also, NATO helps Ukraine to increase its resilience through various formats. And this week's hackathon is one of them. And I'm very pleased that we can take forward this support. And within this week, under NATO-Ukraine C4 Trust Fund knowledge sharing project, we are running this event, which also brings together experts, and it's also a great platform within which we can discuss and share our knowledge and also share our experience.
Дякую, Вінето. Запрошую.
Thank you, Vineta. Now our next speaker is Herod Elsingam, head of the C3 staff, and we can hear you, see you at least. I have a question to you, sir. Greetings from Ukraine. Can you hear and see us? Give us a sign that you can. But we cannot hear you, unfortunately. And this is not the first hackathon in Ukraine with NATO support. This is a great opportunity to encourage cooperation between talented young IT specialists and the governmental agencies. How can we provide for this process, and what result do you expect from this process? What's the reason for all this? This is our question to you, Harold. The floor is yours.
The Trust Fund, as you may know, its objectives are to support Ukraine in improving its C4 capabilities, but also to improve interoperability with NATO. Specifically on the hackathon, which is an event that took already a couple of years place, led by ACT, where various teams compete with each other to come up with innovative solutions. We also thought within the C4 Trust Fund that this was a unique opportunity to do a similar exercise within Ukraine, and that idea came the first time into fruition in 2018. And initially, the support from NATO, which was in the beginning perhaps a bit bigger than it is now in terms of the development, but definitely the C4 Trust Fund initially put some effort in actively participating in the preparation of the hackathon, and especially in defining the challenges. To provide subject matter expertise. As you may know, that especially in the CIS domain, some of the challenges are very detailed, very specified, and that requires specific subject matter expertise. Also, by providing during the hackathon non-competing teams that could support the Ukrainian teams in moving forward should they come into certain trouble. Let's not forget that the NATO teams have had some experience in these challenges. We basically combine the knowledge of 30 nations, and that knowledge is shared with Ukraine in order to improve also the interoperability, but also to bring ideas across that may be taken forward by other teams. Also judging teams and supporting presentations and briefings like we also do this time, just to sketch the context, but also to come up with certain, let's say, ideas that may be used by the teams in order to cope with a specific challenge. And then, of course, at the end, to also provide some opportunities through prizes for Ukrainian teams to continue their, let's say, their development and their efforts, and to support those efforts, and to let's say facilitate participation in NATO events. Now, one thing that is really impressive, and it was already mentioned before, is the level of knowledge and the level of expertise that Ukrainian teams put in. It's already been mentioned that at NATO hackathons, Ukrainian teams are definitely part of the top teams that have already won quite a bit of prizes in the NATO hackathons. And that is just an indication of how high the level of expertise in education is in Ukraine, which is also very much welcome from the NATO side, as we equally learn from the Ukrainian teams when participating in these events. And it's a good thing, and also this did not go unnoticed, that the 2022 hackathon, the intent is to organize it in February in Kyiv, in Ukraine, within which, of course, NATO teams, but also Ukrainian teams, again, will compete against each other. So this is really one of these efforts, one of the activities that we as a C4 Trust Fund applaud and definitely would like to continue participating in and supporting.
Дякуємо за підтримку.
Thank you very much for your support from all the Ukrainians, and our strategy is in the constitution now, our aspiration, NATO aspiration, the cybersecurity, and your support as much as we need it, knowledge and experience and expertise. Of course, all Ukrainians are appreciative of this assistance. Thank you, Herod. Thank you, Vanessa. And now we have learned about the importance of cybersecurity for the state, what the government are doing, and the NATO plans. Now, presently and specifically, we'll discuss to the sponsors of this event, the hackathon team. Stay with us. For all those who have just joined us, I have a message, and if you watch us through devices, you can spread the news and share the news with as many people as possible to spread the message on this hackathon, cybersecurity. And the motive, the proof, will provide you with it, and directly from the sponsors, Deputy Head over the service, Oksana Horbach, Director of StratCom Ukraine. Thank you, Alexander. Thank you, Oksana. Thank you for joining us, Alexander. The first question of this idea of hackathon. This is our franchise. With the Western partners, the initiative, or maybe it's something invented in Ukraine. The idea was conceived because our team, the Ukrainian team, and the team of our service on numerous occasions participated in NATO hackathon. The latest one last year we won the first prize. It's like Eurovision. If you win, you bring hackathon to your country, to your jurisdiction. For some years in a row, we were among the winners and the top 3 teams, and we proved that we were prepared to host a national hackathon on cybersecurity, just to make a test for the NATO hackathon to be hosted here. And the new format of interplay among jurisdictions, horizontally, among different security and defense sector, academic, industrial teams, and so forth. This is the peer level, and we need such formats, and that's why we have this idea how to hold a national hackathon on cybersecurity exam. We've heard about NATO standards on numerous occasions, the NATO formats. Hackathon is taking place based on such standards. We understand that there are some standards, but we would like to have some practical advice from you. What's the point of this? The point is to create the national hackathon on a NATO-based format. All the issues are realistic. They are cybersecurity, cyber protection issues. This is part of the development of innovative solutions, and the problems with the 16 teams based on real life. They're very topical. They are actual problems that the service have, and the security and defense sector, for that matter, for security, cybersecurity. And after presenting their solutions, they will submit them to the experts of the State Service for Special Communications, and the most promising ones and the most implementable ones will be realized. We have 16 teams from security and defense sector, natural university, polytechnical schools, energy sector. These are different people with different backgrounds, different walks of life. National Guards, the Armed Forces, State Special Communication Service, the Aviation University from Kharkiv, and they are all dealing with the same kind of issues. And we have the potential to find solutions to change our system of cybersecurity critically and for the better. And the NATO standards are affecting the organizational arrangements for this hackathon. The blue teams, the green teams, and the white teams. Can you explain the coloring there? What's the color pattern? It's not political, right? This is not so. So who are those participants? Let's talk about the 3 teams again. This part of the NATO formats. Blue teams are solving the problems. The 16 teams I was referring to, with specific challenges, specific tasks under this hackathon. The hackathon, NATO hackathons are designed in such a way that participants have all the necessary expertise to get the necessary knowledge to solve such problems. It's for exchange of experience, multiplying the expertise. They are professionals already active in cybersecurity sector and providing protection. And for all the 5 days, they're helping the teams, providing advice, and they take a problem for the hackathon and they solve it also. That provides us with the opportunity to see the solutions from the expert angle. Judges, mentors, communication specialists, that's the white team is making it all possible. Alexander, how did you set the tasks for the problems for the teams? It is very important to mention 3 things here. Number 1, we formed the task according to the strategy of cybersecurity of Ukraine that was recently adopted. And there we enshrined all the strategic tasks for the state of Ukraine, the cybersecurity sector that we have to take into account and to solve. In that strategy we mentioned at least 2 national competitions every year. That's what we set as a requirement. That's the minimum, and the National Hackathon on cybersecurity is one of such events. Secondly, we all know that we were looking on the State Service for Special Communications. They are responsible for the critical infrastructure, state information resources, and cybersecurity and protection. For private sector, also the academic sector, and so on, and so on. And because we have to take this into account, this is our mission, and it covers all the state. And thirdly, how we did it, we invited the best experts from the industrial sector, from the academic sector, the commercial sector, our experts who are already regulars at such international competitions, and they developed the problems, and we invited our NATO partners. They added their problems additionally for the teams, and we opened the envelopes today before they start. They didn't know about the problems, and that's how we formed the pool of such problems. They are very topical, all of them. They review different aspects, motivate the teams for creativity, for agility, for problem solving. There are problems presented to the teams, and now they are all involved in this competition. So evidently this is not just an opportunity for the sake of competition, but as a result of this competition, the solutions can be subsequently used for implementation. Do you plan on that? This is the very essence of this hackathon, because all the solutions that are being developed by the teams, first of all, after the analysis, and there will be the analysis by the white team, by the expert team. They will be all evaluated and reviewed, and the solutions which are implementable through new regulations and legislation, apps and solutions introduced. So that will be done. That's why we are doing it on our premises, because we must now draft this policy, and other teams come from other backgrounds. They can practically implement in their respective agencies their developments, and they can use their solutions for their own duty. And thank you, Alexander. Thank you, Oksana, for the opportunity to have this National Hackathon. Dear friends, for all the participants of this official opening ceremony, the best of luck, and our country is advancing with the great strides towards cyber protection, cyber security, and this hackathon is another opportunity for all Ukrainians to feel more secure.
I wish you all success, and see you later at the platforms of the SSCIP and at big forums where Ukrainians can show strong results on cybersecurity. Glory to Ukraine.